Greetings, you sexy sons and daughters of bitches. Today we're going to do another business vlog update. Kind of just been throwing all of my recent stuff into the business vlog, but that's how it is. It's just either business vlog videos or coding videos. And this is going to be kind of a combo video because today I'm going to talk about the app that I'm designing for the DevSlopes program. So just a quick overview of where I'm at in the journey. First, you got to develop your skill. I'm right at the tail end of that, where I've essentially developed the skill and I'm developing my first fully functioning app. I've done a lot of small kind of like half projects where I implement Core Data, which is a data management system in iOS, or I learn how to do network requests and I just take some data from an API and I display it on an iPhone. I've done all of that. Now the goal is to basically write a fully functioning app where I create all the data myself and I make something that I can actually post to the App Store, and then I'll put it on DevSlopes and DevSlopes people will say, hey, good for us. But that's not actually gonna make me money if they say good or not. They're just gonna say, hey, you've developed the skill enough that you should be able to function in most jobs that you could get. So go start applying for jobs, and then they'll teach me how to do that. So right now it's kind of a transition. It's a little bit of learning, but more so I am reaching into the actual world of development and that next step where I can actually contribute. I can post this on the App Store and I can actually start to possibly make money off of this. Most likely, I'm not actually going to make much money off of this, but I chose an app that I think has a lot of money-making potential. And the reason that I did that is because the whole point of this is to get to $1 million at some point. Sorry, I chose an app that has a lot of money, that helps me develop a skill that has a lot of money-making potential. So we'll look at what that is right now. All right. So here's what we're looking at today. It's this crazy new thing called LLMs, or large language models. So what is a large language model? Essentially, a large language model is something like ChatGPT, right? GPT is the large language model behind ChatGPT. And ChatGPT is essentially a user interface that allows you to interact with GPT, the large language model. And a large language model is something that is essentially super complicated, but it uses NLP, which is natural language processing, in order to understand text and information. And then it uses some pretty complex algorithms to be able to categorize and understand that information, and then generate responses to prompts. And it gets crazy when you go beyond that, but that's all that you really need to know at this point. Essentially, LLM, just think about ChatGPT. There are these new, business opportunities coming around where we can start to create LLM applications. So one limit that LLMs have, you might have noticed this with ChatGPT, is they don't have access to your data, your information. In the case of ChatGPT, it only has access to data up to 2019, I think. So if you have either events since 2019, or you have your own business with a bunch of information about the processes of your business, your client information, your employee information, it doesn't have access to any of that. So it can't help you in any way that's niched down or specific to your needs. And that's where LLM applications come in. Now, there are two main ways that you can expand upon an LLM, where you can build an application that builds off of an LLM in order to provide value to people. The first way is, I really hope you guys can see this because in my screen it's all mirrored. But if it's not that way, I'll just refilm this. So anyway, so the first way is with fine tuning. Fine tuning. And this is essentially where you take your LLM and you give it prompt response pairs, and you say, and this is something that you can do for artificial intelligence software of other kinds, but we're going to focus on the language side of things. So you can say something like, if I were to say this, then you would respond this way. If I were to say this, then you would respond this way. And you do that over and over and over until your LLM eventually becomes fine-tuned according to your preferences. And that's a huge process there. It gets more complicated than that because you can get programmatic with it and use, TensorFlow and Python, all this crazy shit. But the second way, and this is the way that really fascinates me and should fascinate you because it's much more viable, is custom knowledge base. You can expand upon an LLM with what's called a custom knowledge base. And essentially what that is where you give your large language model access to a knowledge base that has a bunch of information that the LLM can query, essentially. So here's what's gonna happen. Actually, I already have some diagrams drawn out on this, so I'll show you guys those diagrams. All right, so I just took that video. It was way too long to pump into this video, so what I think I'm going to do is create a separate playlist where I'm going to document and talk about this app that I'm making, because this has become more of like a business/life vlog where I just kind of talk about, here's what's going on in my life, here's what's going on with the business and all the plans, and this is more, I guess, technical. And I don't know if I want to get super technical with the series. I don't think I want to be talking about like how to make LLM applications. But if you do want to create an LLM application, then maybe I'll link to that video in this description somewhere whenever I post it. And I'll start making a series where I'll actually show you how you can make an LLM application on an iPhone app. And that's actually something I haven't seen anywhere on YouTube. I've done tons of research, and I've essentially had to collect a bunch of different tools and put them all together and create a whole like data pipeline of my own that isn't really out there in order to get this done. And essentially what it involves, well, I'm gonna put that on the whatchamacallit, the other series. But yeah, LLM applications, very fascinating stuff. If you want to figure out how to do that, check out that series or do some research. I think there's a lot of money-making potential in it. It essentially involves going to businesses. There's like the underlying structure of what you can call an artificial intelligence automation agency, where essentially you go from business to business and you talk to businesses and say, hey, I can build an AI that will automate certain processes for you. So, and you use something like ChatGPT and LLM in order to do that. And you take the business's custom knowledge base, you take all of their data, you create a system where the large language model has access to their data, and then they're able to use that large language model for decision making, for strategizing, for pulling up records and documents and information that would otherwise be very difficult to query and find. They can use that LLM to reason about all of their data to make their processes more efficient if they need to, all kinds of stuff like that. So yeah, there's a lot of potential there. Essentially, the app that I'm developing is a Stoic mentor, an artificial intelligence Stoic mentor app. And basically what I mean by that is it's basically going to be an app where the custom knowledge base is going to be the user's reflections. So they can go in there, they can type up all their reflections and be like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And then it's going to store all of those reflections in a vectorized database. And then it will use the software called Pinecone to perform semantic searches on their vectorized database, extract. So there will be a chatbot where the user will be able to go in, and the chatbot will act as a Stoic mentor, and it'll give them Stoic advice. And when they type in certain questions, certain things, certain problems, the program is going to go into their journal reflections. It's going to extract all of the relevant information. It's going to give that relevant information to ChatGPT, and then GPT is going to be able to take the user's reflections into account, and it's also going to be trained on a bunch of Stoic books and knowledge and ideas, and it's going to combine the user's reflections, some Stoic knowledge, and put them together to create a response that helps the user apply Stoic ideas to their life, or Stoic philosophies to their life. I think it's going to be a pretty cool app. It did get very complicated, so I'll show you. I'll show you a couple of the things I was working on, because I think it's worth showing. All right, so this was my original user interface right here. As you can see, there's a lot going on. I had it so you could go from the year to the month to down to the day to the week number. You'd have yearly reflections, monthly reflections. You'd have prompts, all of this crazy stuff. I need you to focus over here. All this crazy stuff. I had a calendar in there. It was just absolutely insane. And this is something that can happen, and I've certainly seen this happen before. You kind of start to, it's kind of like grandiosity. You start to inflate the idea. Well, what is it? Scope creep is what they called it in my app development book. It was like, when you start making an app, it's gonna get bigger and bigger, and you need to just take that app and squish it down to its absolute necessities. So after I made this, I came up here and I made a much simpler version. All right, I want to talk real quick about the last 2 weeks and what I did in preparation for designing the app that I'm about to talk to you guys about. Basically, I was working construction, and I was working 16-hour days, because the first 8 hours I was working construction. I wake up at 6 a.m., be at work by 7, work from 7 till 3:30, and then get home, and I would do research for the remaining, 8 hours, until from 3:30, 4:30, 5:30, 6:30, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, till about 10. So maybe not a full 8 hours. And sometimes I'd stop around 9. So probably like 13, 14-hour days. And it was crazy, but it was well worth it. I think it built a lot of discipline. It definitely built my focus, stamina. And I will say, there's something interesting about the effortlessness of it. There were many days where I would come back home and I'd be exhausted, and I would think, I'm just gonna, get some CBD, go smoke a CBD in the hot tub, I'll hang out, play some video games, go to bed and chill. And I would come inside, or at least I would think I'm gonna go take a freaking nap because I'm like sleep deprived and exhausted. But a lot of times I would come inside, I would sit down, I'd just start looking into these things. And because they fascinate me so much, I would find myself working for another 4 or 5 hours and focusing for these long periods of time. So when you're developing an online business, especially if you have to balance school or a full-time job in conjunction with it, you have to find something that you're really passionate about to work on, to kind of fuel you in those harder times, because you're going to need a lot of energy to be able to do all of that. So that's interesting, but I will also point out that a lot of this energy, a lot of this passion, in order to get to a point where you have that kind of excitement for these things, it's going to take work and it's going to take time to be able to build enough of a skill to actually be able to experience that passion for that thing. So it's a difficult balance to strike there.